Welcome to Political News and Views with your host, Congressman Ed Towns of Brooklyn, New York, representing the 10th Congressional District, programming with your concerns in mind.
Committee will come to order. Who is watching the backs of the American people to preserve and create jobs?
And now, your host, Congressman Ed Towns.
Welcome to News and Views. I'm delighted today to have with me John McCadney, of course, of Brooklyn, New York. It's always a pleasure to see him, and also to have Joseph Jones. Joseph Jones, also of Brooklyn and connected with the Berean Baptist Church, of course, known as the musical director there, and who Miss Josephine Bolas, who serves on the Health and Hospitals Corporation Board, and a retired nurse. In fact, the first nurse to serve on the Health and Hospitals Corporation Board. Right. What a delight to have her.
Thank
from
you.
Brooklyn also. And then Mary Mason, also, who is a member of the Berean Baptist Church and involved in social service issues. Let me tell you, I am so excited to have you on today, and I just want to jump right into it. We had a hearing today on bathroom parity. And of course, there's a lot of excitement around this issue. A lot of cameras showed up and all of that. And there seems to be concern. First of all, Mary, what do you think about this whole issue of bathroom parity? Is this something that we should pursue?
Absolutely. I think it's very important. As one of the people on the panel stated this morning, we've always taught ourselves to hold it, not realizing we are doing physical harm to ourselves by not being able to release when we should. And bathroom parity is imperatively important and should move quickly, because there just is not enough bathrooms for women.
Josephine.
That is so true. And you know, even in hospitals or airlines or wherever you go, you always find a line waiting outside the bathroom. And this is terrible, because it does. If you have to hold it for a long time, it leads to urinary tract infections, renal failure. You have a lot of problems that come down the line. So there's long-term effects as well as the short-term effect. And the short-term effect, I went to Nashville with my husband on a vacation one time, and they have long lines there to get into those places. They really, really have a long line. And I was in the bathroom, and in this lady came who had been standing on line with her husband, and you pay a lot of money for those tickets, and you wait outside for a long time. She had had an accident, and the whole front of her dress was wet. And that's uncalled for.
Oh my.
I mean, you look forward to this evening, you get ready, you go out, you stand on long lines, and then you have an accident, and you're in tears. You're ashamed of yourself for having this accident when it wasn't your fault. It was the fault of the fact that there weren't enough bathrooms, and the women were standing on long lines. She could have made it. She could have had a beautiful day, but she didn't. And I don't know how long that shame lasted with her, that she had to go back out in public with a wet dress.
Yeah.
It's just uncalled for.
Actually, the men are inconvenienced as well, because what happened is that I went to a play, with my wife, and of course, I went to the men's room and came back and ready to go in for the second act. She still wasn't there. Then I kept waiting, and she still wasn't there. And then finally, the second act was getting ready to start, and she comes up. And by this time, I'm saying, "Where were you?" And she said, "I was in the line in the ladies' room, trying to get into the ladies' room." And then I said, "Oh." And in a play, and once they cut those lights out, you have a difficult time finding your seats. And so I was trying to make certain that we got in before they cut the lights off again. But the point is that, so we can be inconvenienced. And I was in Florida at the airport, and I saw this long line, and of course, and then I realized it's just only the women in it. And I said, wait a minute, we need to do something. And that's one reason why I'm pushing this legislation to try and correct it, because men suffer from it too. Because we have to wait for you while you're in the long lines. That's our time as well. That
Plus,
takes some
we
time.
take over your bathrooms.
Right.
I marched for the March of Dimes one time in Manhattan, and all the women came in, and we were trying to find space, and we want to make our, who gets to the March of Dimes finish line first. So you want to get there first. So basically speaking, we had to go commandeer the men's bathroom. The poor men had to stand aside while the women went inside and used their bathroom, just so we can get enough of us out back on the march. And so,
You know, Dr. Anthony today indicated the fact that if a person, in terms of a normal life, will spend 2 years of that life in the bathroom. Now, so not counting the time that you spend online, but just in the bathroom. Now, you think about when you add the fact that the amount of time you spend on the line, you know, that really adds up to a whole lot. So I'm happy to know that you support the legislation, and I'm sure the fellas here would go along with it too, because after all, we're being inconvenienced. Let's talk about this whole activity in terms of gangs. You know, I'm just sort of really amazed at the rise of gangs, and not only, you know, with men, but with the young ladies as well, now getting involved in gangs. You know, and I think it's more now than it was many, many years ago. I mean, John, I know when you grew up, it was the Tommy Hawks and all of that, you know, but what about now in terms of this new group and this all these different gangs, that the Bloods and the this and the that?
The Crips.
It's a horrible situation, and I think that a lot of these young people are looking for a family structure that was more available in, I guess, in my time coming up. We had the church and a more viable family structure, but this gang situation today is terrible.
Right. I wonder if anybody done any research, Joe, to see in terms of if there's a connection with young people being in church and being involved in gangs. You know, has anybody looked at it from that viewpoint? You know, I know in terms of the fact that, you know, we're always concerned about it, but is it any research on church connection and gang involvement? Because I think that if a person is involved in a positive activity, a lot of times they will not get involved in gangs.
I don't know about as far as on record research, but I know in our own church we have established what we have now, the Berean drumline, that has been taken out of the health part of our church for the fight for obesity, and our pastor's wife written a proposal to get an avenue for children to exercise, but they use the drum line because that's a way of releasing your strengths and all. And they started the drum line, and we have brought in a lot of young people off the street, especially young men, because they don't belong. They don't have a place to belong, as they say. In the gangs and the street, is always a sense of belonging until you become a part of it. And when you become a part of it, they find out that you really don't have a family there, and your family that you really had, you have left them, because this makes you feel that you belong to something in the neighborhood. And I think it's also from the hype of the media that you have to be the big man, the big guy, or the big girl. And we at the church, I think we can do even a little more in expressing ourselves to go out beyond the walls and bringing our young people back into the church.
Right. Well, what did we do with the young girls that are now getting involved in gang activities? You know, years ago it was just basically the men, the boys. They would be involved in negative kind of stuff. But now it's the girls. I mean, I've watched on YouTube in terms of young women just fighting and each other and all. I mean, I was amazed at the activities going on. I mean, what do we do in a case like that to try to bring that under control, to get them to sort of pull back and not continue that involvement? What can we do?
There used to be a lot of things going on in schools. Usually the Girl Scouts and all those kind of things, and you know, there was programs teaching girls how to be girls, and all of a sudden we don't want to do that anymore. We want everybody to be equal, and so you've taken away that feminine part of the girl. So she goes the way the boys are going, and some of that is gangs.
What about Girl Scouts? I mean, you don't hear people talking about it.
Do you know how much it costs to run a Girl Scout now?
How much?
If you open up a school, you have to pay for the school, you have to pay for a custodian, you have to pay for 2 bathrooms, and that's a lot of money to tell the Girl Scouts, now, all right, this troop, whatever your dues are, must include that money also, because there's no other way to pay for it. So then that breaks down that you have to charge the girl to come to school plus her uniform in order to become a Girl Scout. It's a very expensive procedure.
What about a situation where the school is already open?
Then you're piggybacking on somebody else, and you still pay a fee, but it's a lesser fee. You can piggyback on someone else if someone else is having it, but then you're at the mercy of them when they have whatever day they're there. That's the day you must have your meetings.
Yes. That's also do with leadership.